Hello, welcome to episode 20 in 2025 of the Realtors. I'm David Blair. He's Trevin Perez. Trevin, how you doing today?
Let's go. Doing fantastic. Episode 20 on 2025. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty special. I didn't know we were getting up into those kind of numbers yet, but yeah, I like it.
Can you imagine? 20
So
weeks ago or
in
more?
that in that in that fashion, 20 and 2025, we're going to talk about what do people talk about right now this time of year? Everyone is talking about New Year's resolutions, right? Now they say that most people fall off and they break their resolution by the end of this month. Have any resolutions that you put in place for this year? Either personal. We'll talk about real estate in a minute. Any personal resolutions for this year?
Well, before I answer your question, do you know I saw online somewhere on the news? They said that actually people cancel their resolutions by this second week. Something about this second or third week, that whole goal setting just throws out the window. So, do I have one? No. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that, in our lifestyle of real estate, I'm constantly on a quest of either chasing the gym or working out or eating better. One day I'll catch it. How
Yeah.
about you?
So it's difficult because if you think about it, technically, if let's say for example, a lot of people want to do a dry January, and I'm doing a dry-ish January, but
Mm.
if you drink on New Year's Eve, you're probably drinking after New Year's Eve, a little bit into that, and you've already really broke the resolution. So day one, January 1st, you're still drinking. 1, 2 a.m., you're still drinking. So
I'm disappointed in you.
so it's done, So there's really the first I actually don't count the first. On the first, I say, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm gonna do all these great things, and then it gets you're still kind of tired from the first, so it just kind of trickles into what are we now? We're at the eighth, yeah. So the eighth, and
Yeah.
I'm actually
And I don't
I'm
know
in line.
about you, David, but when I'm a little hungover after the New Year's Eve, I'm drinking on the first as well, just to help recover and recuperate.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think a doctor said that was a great idea. I don't
yeah.
know.
I think so. It sounds like a real thing.
It is. And it's on YouTube now, so it's official.
It sounds like a real thing. But so I actually did. I actually kicked some things into gear. I'm going to do a dry January, not drink as much this month. I say as much. Exercise. I have started exercising. I've been exercising. Today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At least 5 days. I've exercised at least 5 days in a row. So I'm on a good start. I'm on a good
Feel
start.
nice. You feel
Yeah.
that swole, your clothes are tight.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
It's little so it's little accomplishments. I read that book last year on the Kaizen theory, which is small goals. That's what you do is you have very small goals, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to work out this week. And then you work out that week. And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to do this next week. And then so on. And then before you know it, it does kind of you do kind of get some, get the ball rolling to where you're 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months down the road. So I think that's probably better than I'm going to do this great big thing in January, and then it just collapses by the end of the month, and you feel like a
Yeah.
total loser. So
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I feel like that's going to come up in our conversation on calendars, because I sort of use your logic when it comes to the calendar. Like I just take it one day at a time. Can I
yeah,
accomplish these goals and these responsibilities so I can get a big check mark at the end of the day?
yeah, yeah. I do that too. You're better at it, I think, than I am as far as the accountability of a calendar. My wife always asks. She's like, is this on your calendar? Is this on your calendar? And it's not. A lot of times, it's not. It's in my head somewhere, and I know these things, and I'm able to pretty much stay on task with that. But I have started that and saying, okay, let me plug these things into the calendar. You and I were talking before, and the I think we shared a clip of a Tom Ferry podcast, and on there he said if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist.
Right.
So if you use that rationale, that makes perfect sense, and it keeps you in line with what your tasks are during the day, whether it's some of the things that we're going to get into real estate wise, but also in your personal life. just helps keep you on task as far as what what your goal is to get accomplished that day, and then whatever doesn't finish carries over to the next day at the very beginning of that day, and then so on. Is that pretty much how you handle business?
I wish. Nowhere near as perfect.
So it sounds good though. It sounds really. When I say it out loud, yeah, when I say it out loud, it sounds really good. I'm like, man, if I could just do all of those things that I say out loud, that would be great. That would really be great.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to this. You send me the video and we're talking about it. We referenced Tom Ferry. I mean, yeah, he's an amazing coach, and just the conversation around the part about ChatGPT where he took all of the responsibilities of a realtor and
Yeah,
dumped it in there and said, "What's revenue generating?" And it
right.
was like only like 20-30% was revenue generating of
Yeah,
that list. The rest is just busy work. I was like,
yeah.
wow.
And I guarantee you kind of like he said, we probably spent 80 to 90% of our day on all that stuff that doesn't generate income.
Right.
Yeah. So 2025 real estate resolution. I wouldn't say I have resolutions for this year as far as the real estate market goes. There are some things that I do. I've done on a pretty consistent basis each year. I do try to look back and see what worked the previous year. What kind of year I had. You and I've talked before. A lot of times, if you're not really engaged in the last quarter of that year, you can feel the effects this month. If you didn't do a lot this month, which is tough, or last month, which is tough, it's the holiday season. You want to spend time with friends, family. Your customers, your clients are busy. Likewise with friends and family, so it's hard to engage them in business. And then we kind of pay for that and play catch up. I think that this month, but it's usually not hard to kind of snap back into gear pretty quickly for me and realize, okay, it's a new year. We're starting at zero, and off we go. So with that, you secured a listing already this year.
Yes, I did. And it was so cool. It didn't even dawn on me to share it with you.
Mhm.
I get a text from you the other night about it. And I'm like, wait, I went back in my transaction file to
Yeah,
see the date. I was like, oh, yeah, I got one too.
yeah,
So
nice,
that was awesome. Yeah.
nice. Good, good. Yeah, I listed a property actually just yesterday, and it's always interesting when you price a property. And this was a customer I've talked to for a couple of weeks now. We discussed pricing. Initially, he was a little higher than what I thought we should be at on the market. But sometimes you look at a property and you think, this might be one of those that I'm really going to get good response from. And we put it on live yesterday. Well, last night it went into coming soon, which we talked about that feature before in the MLS, and then today it went live. And I already had about 3 phone calls on it. We had a scheduled request for a showing on it. I'm going to do an open house this Sunday to generate some business, and I worked on the marketing aspect of it today, getting photos uploaded, things like that. So I'm positively optimistic that we're going
Nice.
to do well with that. How
No,
about yours?
that's
How's
awesome.
yours going?
Well, real quick question. I mean, are you seeing, I'm noticing an uptick. I mean, a 2x uptick in showing activity just since we've gone into January. I had a fairly new listing, a newer built home that was getting very little love last year,
Hmm.
and we've already gotten 5 showings uh,
Nice.
this month, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if there's any indicators that January, New Year is here, was that.
Good.
Fortunate side is it was more of those, those favorites of ours, the Zillows and the Redfins, because they click the button, they
Hmm.
automatically go to those agents.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought that was really good news for the most part. And yeah, my new listing, I haven't, I'm getting pictures done tomorrow.
Hmm.
And then I want to do that virtual staging that we talked about.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm going to use the application and do it myself since it was so easy.
Yeah.
And instead of using, the photographer services,
Yeah.
I'll save myself a boatload, in fees. And then the goal is to potentially do a small coming soon, probably that Friday or Saturday, and then
Nice.
launch Sunday or
Nice.
Monday, on the
Yeah, and
MLS.
if you're an agent out there that happens to be watching this, just what we're talking about is so virtual staging is something that you can do on properties. Let's say you have a vacant property listing and you want to do some virtual staging, which is actually pretty easy to do. It's been pretty popular for years, but actually pretty expensive. If you go to an average photographer or company that does your photo tours for you, they'll do that, but it's usually about $20. I think $15 to $20 per photo, which can get pretty expensive, especially if you're doing a whole house. I used to do 3 or 4 photos because of that, because you're spending $80, $100 pretty quickly. But the service that we found was VA VI. Is it virtual staging or
So,
yeah, it's either VA or VI. I don't think it's VA. I think it's VI staging. But it actually is a package deal that you can get several photos, 20 for pretty low cost, a fraction of the cost of what you would normally have to pay the photographer. And I think the quality is still really good. I used it a lot last year. Had some really good success with it. Turned some listings that were not getting enough activity into some sales. So I think that's yeah, you're definitely on the right track with that. So any other in any other new things you think you're going to try this year that maybe you didn't last year? I've got a couple. I've got a couple.
yeah, I am. I want to do more of the farming
Yeah.
activities. So last year I did a little bit with my daughter's varsity high school team, her
Mhm.
basketball team. I sponsor, and I'm listed on the scoreboard. I want to do a little bit more of that and figure out how to integrate that as a regular activity and expense. Just have to trust that it's a longer term marketing. So
Mhm.
that's one of them for sure. Um, and yeah, I'll just leave it there for now. Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you?
A couple things. So we had our first sales meeting of the year yesterday at my office, an in-office meeting. It wasn't over Zoom, and we just talked about new opportunities that we had this year. We've got a couple of different um, relocation opportunities that are unique to our office and location that I may start working on this year. The biggest thing I think is going back to some of what I did in 2021 through 2024 that was really successful with, and that was just time blocking, going into that calendar and then just putting in certain blocks of time to go in there and make phone calls, prospect to customers that you haven't reached out to. I did it today for a couple hours. So we use the same system, the Mojo dialer system that we're using. I did that for an hour this morning, and came across a couple that were could be good opportunities. That it's funny, you go back in and you see a property that maybe someone requested information on, or they requested a cash offer, in our previous lifetime with OfferPad, and they're still around. They haven't moved forward with the transaction. A lot of them do, but it's funny that a lot of them still haven't. And when you go back in, if I see where those properties were listed, you can always kind of see. I don't want to say the mistake that they made, but you can see that maybe the property wasn't priced correctly. Maybe it wasn't staged correctly. The condition was not, in line with where the pricing was. There's always something that you can look at if you saw where it went into a listing and didn't sell as to why that didn't happen. So I think there's are going to be some good opportunities because there's sellers out there that still ultimately they still need to sell that property.
Yeah.
And we're not at. I was looking at a study before we came on. I think our inventory is they say a balanced market is 4 months of inventory, 4 to 4.5, or something like that. I guess depending on, I'm sure that's probably location driven, but I think we're at in our area right now, we're at about 3.5 months. So we haven't tipped that scale yet. Everyone wants to, and I want to get your take on this. Everyone wants to go ahead and concede and say, well, we're in a buyer's market, but we're really not. I mean, at least I don't feel that in this area here. A buyer's market would indicate that there is a ton of inventory for you to choose from, and that that price was flexible because you know because you're the buyer. But I just don't feel that we're in that position yet. What are you seeing in your area?
Yeah, I would say that some pockets of the cities that I cover in Central Florida are actually over 4 months of inventory, 5 months of inventory. And when I look at it by zip code for these for the marketing reports that I get when I'm doing any kind of particular research for clients who are thinking and strategizing on when to hit the market, there's that meter that shows whether we're in a seller's market or a buyer's market, and a lot of the different reports I've run just over the last couple of weeks show that we're in a full-fledged buyer's market. Again,
Really?
by zip
Yeah.
code, by city,
Mhm.
right? It's going to vary for sure. Like I went after a client of mine who is in the Kissimmee area, and I looked today hoping to bring him back. I mean, he's just waiting for me. He's like, show me that there's been some sales. And
Mhm.
literally nothing sold in December. Nothing went pending this fourth quarter. It's stale. Everything, like out of like 7 homes, everything has been sitting for over a year. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I won't tell you to come on, right now, because it's not a good
Yeah.
time for you.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's interesting because I put a buyer under contract a couple of weeks ago, and we took a look, and this is why I think it's a little bit different than, so buyers markets in the past have been, to me, when I think of a buyer's market, it's a buyer can go out and they can, I don't want to say lowball, but I mean they can make a pretty strong offer in their favor and get that offer accepted. And I'm just not seeing that. What I'm seeing right now is, I'm seeing if you throw an offer out there, you can throw an offer out there like that, a low pitch, so to speak, but it's just not getting accepted. A lot of sellers are just saying, I'm just not going to sell at that, in that range.
yeah,
So the properties that are in good condition, and that are priced correctly, according to, I don't think you can over. It's not the market where you can overprice, and that was a little my concern with that. The seller I spoke with, the new listing, was that, it's not the market to be overpriced and just sit there.
yeah,
So I think if you're priced correctly and you're in good condition, I think that's the key. But the two offers that I made within the last month and a half, those were at or right at list price of where those properties were listed at. There wasn't that huge concession that you think of when you say buyer's market. I think in a lot of buyers' terms, they think, oh well, it's 300,000. I'm going to get that house for 240. I
yeah.
I'm not seeing that yet. I'm not seeing that kind of reduction.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that, and we didn't talk about this off camera. The buyer that I was working over this last week, who's under contract, similar time that we were talking about transactions working, this is in the Lake Mary area. These buyers actually wanted to come in 30, 40 below.
Yeah.
However, through some counsel and we discussed the values, they were like, okay, let's just come in short 10K off list.
Sure.
We negotiated, made some concessions. They came in at full price, full list
Mhm.
price for the property. Now we're in the midst of inspections. We did a bunch yesterday, and I got a few more between radon
Mhm.
and the air quality one for mold. We're researching and getting feedback on right now, but we came in at full list price. We're probably going to come down and ask for, maybe 10K, 10, 11, 12K of concessions, because the
Mhm.
air conditioner is original. Like,
Yeah.
it's like 15, 20 years old,
Mhm.
so it's like, come on, man. You can't expect us to take on that old of a HVAC system.
Yeah.
But to your point, I'm like ecstatic that we're coming in at really good pricing, because the list price in the beginning was really solid.
Mhm. Yeah. We had, I think with ours, what they did is they were at list price. It did involve some concessions with closing costs. So what I always tell buyers is that in some markets you get both, and then some markets you get one or the other. And what I mean is that in some markets you can ask for a lower price and you can ask for the concessions, and maybe you get both of those. But right now, what I'm seeing is that we're in the market where they were able to offer list price, but they were able to get some concessions regarding closing costs, which was more important to them because they didn't have to come to closing with that out of pocket cash. So that made more sense for them. So that's the route that we took. And I just got the feeling from activity that on both of those listings that they were having, that the seller was just not going to budge on that. It was going to be either or. Either we'll do a slight reduction in price, or we'll give you those closing costs, but we're not going to do both of those. Not right now. We'll wait until the next buyer comes along. And I think they did that just because they were getting activity. Obviously that's what I always tell buyers. Each seller is different. If you encounter a seller that hasn't had any activity on their listing in 30, 60, whatever days, any kind of significant interest in that, then that's probably somebody that you can maybe throw one of those offers at, and maybe they're a little more motivated to sell. But I'm just not seeing that in overwhelming numbers in our area right now.
Right. Right.
So talk. One of the things that we didn't talk about, I got the email from my office as a pleasant reminder from NEFAR that this is the time of the year that your dues, your realtor dues are due. They hit you in January.
They really do.
No,
Right after Christmas. Like, what's that about?
exactly right. You still want to be a realtor? That's cool. Okay, sign here. Go ahead and send us those dues that you know you maybe didn't put back for when you were buying your GI Joe and skateboards over the holiday. You didn't think about that, but right
Hmm.
here in January, here it is. So with that, usually what we hear is that a lot of realtors don't renew. One of the other things, and this isn't the realtor show endorsing Tom Ferry, but one of the things I was listening to on his podcast is that there were a large majority, 50 to 60% of realtors last year that did 10 or less transactions for the entire year.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe even just sold one house.
yeah, which is not, I know that there's that thought. We've talked about it before, and I'm not going to get on that soapbox in regards to, all the fees that get sliced up, but that's not a lot. I mean, that's really not a lot when you start to kind of divvy that up, and then you look at the fees that you pay for the year. You pay a monthly fee. A lot of people are not aware of that, but you actually pay a monthly fee if you have key access, e-key access to Supra, then you're paying for access for that, to your MLS system on a monthly basis as well. So I think you pulled up some numbers regarding what's gonna happen. So people are they're gonna cancel. They're not gonna be realtors anymore. What are they doing?
Yeah, that's what they're saying, that the National Association of Realtors annual and national membership count has dropped by 25,000 people who decided
Ooh.
not to pay for their 2025 dues and participate. Right?
And you know what that means. That's so my broker used to call that a cleansing of our industry. And he's not wrong. I mean, that's really what it is. A lot of times it's, do you really is this really what you want to do? Is this what you want to do, as your career? If not, then, do something else. Go
Exactly.
go do something else. And you're not diluting the realtor pool of agents that, this is their full-time business. That's why it's always funny to me when you hear throughout the year, and I should have tracked that this year. How many times do you think you heard this past year a customer or potential customer that was working with a friend or a family member? I know I heard it at least 2 to 3 times per month.
For sure.
So
For sure.
so
It'd be a better count to track based on the negotiations and conversations with agents, whether it be for tours of your listings
yeah,
or just communicating with listing agents. You find out like they don't know how to use a lockbox,
right.
or they don't know how to access or figure out how to get the code, the door code,
Mhm.
um, or just other issues with maybe contracting paperwork, what they're using. You can like tell that like someone's not full time. I had a showing today, so we are no longer on Supra now here in
Mhm.
Orlando. The Orlando MLS has moved from that solution from Supra to Centralock, and
Okay.
so she got the approval online, and she shows up at the door, and she's standing there fumbling with her phone and then leaves. And my seller calls me. He's like, where are you? She tried to call you. I said, what? I was like, I don't have a call. So I said, let me call her now, right? And this is luckily within 10-minute window. And she sounded, fairly green. She was like, oh, I didn't get a code. And I knocked at the door. I said, why would you knock at the door? It's a vacant home. And she said, oh, I didn't know that. And but I didn't get a code. You want to give me the code? I said, when you got accepted, the code was sent to your app. And so she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'll figure it out. I'm like, are you still there? Let's get your buyers in. Let's see the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
And she fumbled through it, got in. Luckily, it's not going to be an offer, a made in heaven offer, but I
Mhm.
just was to the point. I almost would like to track how many people do we encounter that we know from conversation or from their evidence they show are part timers.
A lot. I know it's it's a high number, and you always, I mean, you could be, you know, we're experienced veterans in this, but you could be in the business for 3 years and you could probably spot somebody that's brand new, to the business because of some of those issues. I mean, when Showing Time sends you guys still use Showing Time?
We do. It's yeah, we do.
Yeah, it tells you right there whether it's an occupied property or not. I
Sure.
mean, so not knowing it's vacant or it's occupied, I mean, is
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You're
yeah.
knocking on the door.
No one answered. We didn't see any furniture or anything, but no one
Right.
answered the door.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's
Hilarious.
funny. Yeah,
Hilarious.
so I mean, I do think that is, I don't celebrate anyone else's demise.
Right.
I really don't. But at the same time, if you're telling me that it was a large portion of agents that were either doing this part time or just realized that it just wasn't for them, then that's just what it is. I'm sure every business has that, especially in sales, has that kind of attrition. To where it's just not for everybody. And it's funny because I think there are people that really appreciate what we do, or people that have tried to do it and then we're not successful. Because anytime I talk to any of those friends that I knew that were in real estate, in the boom periods, and that's where they were. They were in the real estate in that boom market, and then the market changed the next year, and they're like, "What happened? This is not what I did last year."
Right.
Last year I showed up with someone and we got out and we wrote a contract, and they showed up at a builder's home and they wrote a contract and called me and told me I was on the contract. You know, and this is not that same thing. So that's kind of what we're into this year. Everything I've seen for 2025, um, the forecast has been, the same or better, I think, than last year is what I'm hearing. And that's not through chat. What is it? Chat
Oh,
GBT.
chat GPT.
That was from actual people that said that. I do think it's funny that we're relying on, if you go into Google right now and you ask how the real estate market's going to be, it says, it'll give you this virtual answer of
Yeah.
what it thinks, based on, I guess, criteria that it's pulled from articles. But these were actual people that felt like, with the change in the administration, that's coming about in January, and other things at play, that the market's going to continue on. We haven't seen a high number of listings, could impact the market, especially with the interest rates, where they're at right now. I spoke with a customer. I've got a follow up call with them tomorrow. One of the things we talked about they're concerned with is they're under contract on new construction, and the interest rates are not favorable, under conventional right now. And they haven't been, over the last, 30 days. I do think that's going to change a bit. When's the next, there's another reserve meeting, isn't there, coming up, or no?
Yeah, it should be the third week of January, but I don't know for sure. So don't
Yeah.
quote me.
Yeah. And well, yeah. So I'm optimistic from what I'm hearing from some of the mortgage reps that, kind of buckle up. This is where we're at for right now,
Yeah.
and things will kind of start to improve as we go along.
Yeah.
But
And so right now, as far as right now goes, we're still sitting, high six on both conventional and FHA and VA. I would say low six for VA, and then a little bit higher on FHA, and then the highest on conventional. So yeah,
yeah,
that hasn't changed much at all. But
yeah,
to your point, I mean, that's much of the same. And so just as long as inventory grows and we see more confidence from the community of buyers who are tired of renting, because their rent is just as expensive as a mortgage payment, if not more
okay,
sometimes.
yeah,
So it really does behoove you to talk to an agent and a lender and compare and contrast and see how do you get into a house that you own, get some
mhm,
equity.
yeah. What do you do a lot? You do a lot more with the rental space than I do. Where are rentals at right now? Is that still pretty solid as far as the pricing of rentals? Is that I knew at one point
It was
it was up pretty high at the beginning of last year, and I think kind of stabilized. Where's it sitting now?
it's come down
Yeah.
significantly. I mean, it's still not super low
Hmm.
for the population of renters, but it's come down. I'll tell you, there's a couple of properties I'm addressing right now where during the peak of the market, that property would have been able to get $2,400, and now it's probably looking more like 21, maybe 2,000. So it just there's more competition and just prices have gotten softer. So
Yeah.
you don't have as much demand, and it feels like a price gouging scenario too, right? So
Sure.
you try to you hope that landlords and owners are a little more sensitive about how they price their homes. I think the other factor that's really complicating things is not only just interest rates, but the inflation and just the situation with food. You
Hmm.
know, it should help us all for our New Year's resolution to eat less because food is so expensive. You know,
Yeah.
so we should
Yeah.
all be skinny.
Yeah. It's funny because I know because you're a landlord, so you take that into consideration. You take people's feelings into consideration regarding pricing of how you set your monthly pricing based on the economy.
Unfortunately, David, I do, and I
Yeah,
just had my uncle, who's a retired Air Forceman. He's like, to be a good landlord, you can't be nice. He was like, we used to
true.
respect the landlords who were really mean. We
Yeah.
hated them, but we always paid on time. We did this, that, and the other. The nice ones, we took a little advantage of. I
Hmm.
think I'm seeing a trend in my life, and this wasn't supposed to be a part of our therapy session, David. Therapy is part of a different episode, but yeah, I'm on the nicer side, and people's problems are so traumatic. I mean, they don't have the money. They don't have the money. What do you do? I, it's a tough juggling act. It really is. So I can't wait till you and I start sharing in that burden.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I know where you're coming from as far as the as taking on some of those problems with your prospective tenants. I had a buyer slash seller call this week that was not great from the standpoint of they're purchasing the property, they're under contract on new construction. We've still got to put their property on the market, and they're concerned. They're concerned right now because the builder is making some adjustments in prices within the community to help the builder, but it's obviously not helping them. It's gonna lower that price and expectation of where we thought the house would sell for versus what it can sell for now. So I can feel they're under a lot of stress, which we tend to absorb a lot of that as well. So hopefully we're able to come to a nice solution for them in
Right.
regards to what
Now,
happens
now,
with
David.
selling and buying.
Yeah, I just want you to not feel pressure because I know you're going dry in January. This
Yeah,
is just
exactly.
tea. Okay. Tea. So I'm here for you just for this episode.
Is that oolong? Is that green tea? Is that what brand is this?
Now you're going to show my age because I can't see.
Anyone that's watched any of our podcasts has seen you, several times, go bottoms up on a cup of some type of, juice, coffee, tea, whatever, depending on what time of the day.
I'm looking for Yeti to sponsor the episode. Come on, man. I'm working here for us.
Those things are that we have too many of those around the house. My wife, so my job is to constantly try to move those into the garage if I can,
Yeah,
because
you never know.
we have a collection of those that just become overwhelming to where the whole counter has like 9 or 10 of these things in there.
Okay.
And then of course mine, I have a couple that were bought for me. I love the Cowboys, obviously, so they've got a Dallas star on them, but they've been put in the dishwasher, and it looks like someone ran over it with a lawnmower. It's just tore up and chewed up. So it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
yeah,
crazy. So this one came from OfferPad. You remember we had that contest and we all won gifts?
I do,
I don't
I
remember
do.
what you got, but this was what I got. It was almost like a consolation prize. It was like, okay,
It
I'll
didn't.
take
It doesn't even have their logo on it. I've got two that have their logo on it. You don't have the logo?
the see audience. He's showing off. He's showing off again.
I have one from 2020, and then I have one from last year that my good buddy Kyle Rush actually sent me. I don't know what Kyle, if you're out there, hello, miss you, miss the emails from you. I'm not sure what you're doing right now. If you're still with OfferPad, I heard that you weren't, but best to you and your endeavors.
Yeah.
Um, so
AKA,
so
just make the call, right? Is that the phrase?
but he's not wrong in that, because back on so getting back on topic of 2025 and making phone calls and committing to that. Trevin and I have committed to spending time on the phone, which you need to do as a realtor, to engage uh, your past clients, your prospects that you're working with. That's the way that you stay in business. That's the way you stay in business. That's the way you pay that fee that's coming up in 3 days, that I have to pay. I have to make that decision. I got 3 days to decide if I want to be a realtor this year. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I
Well,
have this.
at least you have a choice because my broker already hit me right after Christmas, January 3rd or something.
Yeah,
I see
yeah,
the bill. I said,
yeah.
"Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was a
Oh no,
gift."
I got the email. The email from our administrator came in this morning. It's like, if you're receiving this email, it's just a reminder that your your NEFAR dues are due, and you're late as of the 10th. So that's another thing I'll share with people. I don't know how it is with yours. If you're late, it's a heavy fine.
Right.
It's a heavy, like 100. It's like 150, and then it goes to 250, and then finally they'll just cut you off, and then you
Yeah.
have to pay like a fee to get reinstated. So yeah, it's pretty heavy. I come up with the same. I have the same lame joke every time I pay it. I'll tell my broker. I'll tell my wife. I'm like, well, I'm a realtor for another year. For another year, I get to do this. So it's what it is. That's all I've really got for today. I know we're going to talk about in the next few weeks. We're going to have some people from various industries on. We've talked about that, but we really just need feedback from our viewers and subscribers as to what type of content would be good, for you to hear. If you want, we share stories. We obviously we can't share personal information of individual buyers or sellers, but I don't think that we've given enough information out to know any pertinent details of a particular buyer or seller. I think we keep it in pretty general terms, but yeah, anything that you'd love to hear us talk about, just send us the email. We still have the what's the email I set up that you don't like? It's Trevin Dave Realtors at gmail.com, I think.
It's Trev in uh, Dave.
Trev, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trev. No I. It's just Trev in Dave. Whatever else you said. So yeah.
Trev is way cooler than Trevin. I'm just telling you.
Okay. Okay. I'm not even gonna enter that conversation or see where this goes.
If you see him in the street, call him Trev. You'll be like, Trev, I saw that podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you got money and you want to hire me, call me Trev. If I owe you something and you want $1 or you want to borrow
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
my name is David Blair.
Yeah.
Look me
Yeah.
up.
Trevin is somebody that serves papers to somebody or something, for some kind of litigation.
Right? You've been served.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
Oh
that's all
God.
I've got. Are you good? You want to close us out?
Yeah, we appreciate everybody. Thanks for checking us out at our first episode of 2025. It was a great year, but now we're into the new year and we're excited to have you join us and participate with us in the road toward 2025, right? And keep in mind, this isn't just purely real estate, right? This is real life. We're talking about real estate related, but our situation, our roles, our lives. We're gonna talk about everything. So come and join us and let us know how the ride and experience goes for you. I'm Trevin Perez. That's David Blair, and we are out.
See ya.